Hello, welcome to Fairy Whispering podcast. I'm Claire Casely, and my guest today is Alyscha Goddard, and I'm really excited to talk with Alyscha because she's got a very inspiring, quite moving story. And yeah, Alyscha's an artist, and she's based in Peterborough. Welcome, Alyscha.
Hi.
Hi. So, I'd like to start with your background story because you've come to what you do, which we'll talk about in a moment, through quite an interesting and challenging journey, haven't you?
Mm.
So, could you just say a little bit about what you do and how that's come about in relation to fairies?
Um, so I make memorial fairy houses. So people will send me their lost loved ones, and I make it into their kind of world in a fairy house so that they've got something to look at. Because I always find that the small trinkets and that get put away in the cupboard and never used. And this way I can incorporate them into the fairy house so that they're on display, which also gives the energy of the person there as well. Um, but I actually got gifted it through my late niece that we lost to mental health last year. And we was at a funeral, and my sister couldn't be there any longer because it was too upsetting for her. So I picked up a bouquet and put them on a wall,
Yeah.
dry them out. And I kept looking at this bouquet drying out, and I was like, they just don't look, they haven't dried nice or anything. And I'm not a florist, so I didn't know how to dry them properly. So I kept getting make a fairy house, and I was like, I can't make a fairy house. And I kept getting it and getting it and getting it. So I was like, right, okay, let's make one first to see whether I can do it before I touch the flowers. And I started making the one that is mine, which is called Autumn, and it was made in the autumn last year. Um, and I just started making it, and I was like, really couldn't understand how I was doing this fairy house. Even my friend come around, she was like, "How are you doing that?" I'm like, "I have no idea, none whatsoever." My hands just took over, and I started making it. But my little girl in me was just ecstatic, like she just loved it,
Mm.
making all of it. So I finished that one, and then I felt a bit confident with making one for my sister in memory of Peyton. So
Mm.
I started making that. Um, she was a beauty therapist, so I made like a little table with a ring light
Mm.
that actually lights up as a
Oh.
ring light, and incorporated her life into it, and used all of the bouquet
Mm.
and put a locket of her hair on there as well.
Oh.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, and when I gave it to my sister, the reaction I got was enough for me to know that that's what I want to do.
Mm.
And I just wouldn't have even thought or dreamed about doing anything like that if I hadn't have been shown that I needed to make a fairy house.
Yeah, and do you feel that that guidance came from your niece?
Yeah, without a
Mm.
doubt,
Mm.
without a doubt. She liked butterflies and fairies as well,
Yeah,
without a
hence
doubt.
hence this background that I've chosen. So I remember you saying that, and I saw this image. I got it from a website called Pixabay. I just have to mention the artist actually. I wrote down Placid Place is the name of the artist on Pixabay.
Very beautiful.
I saw the girl and the butterflies. And I just sort of felt, oh, that feels like that lovely sort of young
Mm.
energy. I remember you saying about the butterflies. So, do you just want to say a little bit about your niece? Because it'd be nice to just honour her memory before we continue with talking about your
Um,
art.
yeah, she was a very, very bubbly person, very
Mm.
out there character. You definitely knew when Peyton was in the room, definitely. Um, she was just full of life. She was really full of life, and um, it just goes to show that sometimes you don't realize what people go through behind closed doors. So check up on the friends that are quiet. Check up on them,
Mm,
because they sometimes people hide away. But yeah, she was a very loving girl. She was.
mm. And how
Mm.
old was she when she passed?
She was 28.
28. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Mm.
so this creation of this house, did you find that it was quite therapeutic for you to do as well? And
Yeah,
mm,
the grief that I was feeling, I felt like it was being channeled through the Faerie House. And as I was making the Faerie House, kept getting all these downloads of what I could do to help people in the same situation by channeling their grief through a Faerie House. Or for me to make a Faerie House in honor for them to look at the Faerie House. And it brings me joy looking at the Faerie Houses. I don't look at them. I know that I've put my grief into it, but I don't look at them and see grief. I look at it in joy. So it's changed my grief into joy. That sounds kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm not taking away from people's grief or anything like that, because everyone's journey with grief is their own. But
yeah,
with me, I felt like it turned that negative into a positive, and that I could see things more joyful, rather than sitting there and remembering, or coming from my own aspect, shall I say, of what could I have done? How could I have helped? Instead of coming from that way, because it's not going to change it now.
mm,
Rather remembering Peyton for how she was, and the loving and the joyful person that she was.
mm,
And that's what the Faerie Houses do for me, and I'm hoping that that's what it does for other people as well, whether they make
yeah,
them on their own or whether they get me to make them for them.
yeah. Is that one behind you? What's that behind you on the?
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, look! Can you hold that one up? Is it possible to? Oh, wow. It looks quite. Oh gosh, it's amazing. It's so much detail. I'd love to share some photos of these
Mm.
people to see as well.
I don't know if you can
Wow.
see it in the house.
I
Can you see?
can't see. Oh, we've got little bits of furniture. Oh,
Mm.
wow. Is
Let me
that,
turn the lights on, see if you can see it better.
yeah, is that the one that you made for Peyton, or is it
No,
another
this is the
one?
one that I've made. I just made it.
Mm. Oh, wow. And where do you find the bits and bobs that you use for your houses?
In the forest.
Hmm.
When I was making Payne's one, I literally kept nipping into the garden and finding things like stones and things off the tree. So it's all, as natural as I
Mm.
can possibly get it. Obviously, the glue that I use, I have to use that for it to stay. But the majority of it is as natural as I can get it.
Yeah. And
Mm.
you've sent me some really lovely videos since we've been talking the last few weeks, which I will put together, and it's okay to share that with people, what you've done. Share it with my patrons. Um, where, yeah, talk me through your process, because we were just talking about this, how you go to the forest and how you're guided to find.
Yeah, so I've kind of two
Uh,
processes. So if I'm
yeah.
going to build a house for someone, then I channel through them, and I kind of pick up what is given to me to
Mm,
make for that fairy house. Um, and then I also have the side where I will connect with the fae, and
mm,
I will make fairy houses in the forest for the fairies. So I have two different kind of avenues that I go down, because I can't do
yeah.
both, 'cause otherwise I get really confused.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like the so talk. yeah, when you go to the forest and because you recently discovered a place that you've been going to, is that right? Is it a recent discovery? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times before, but never
Mm.
really connected because it's only really been, even though I've been doing fairy houses for the about a year now, I've only really connected with the Fae in the last 4 or 5 months. But it's like almost like it's come on really strong. Like the first time I connected, I was like, "Oh, hello, what's
Yeah.
this?" And yeah, it's almost like every time I go to the woods now, I have to kind of, if I'm connecting with a fae, as soon as I walk into that woods, it's only about 5 miles away from me. Um, as soon as I walk in, it's almost like I can feel, and they kind of have me on a wild goose chase to start off with. Like have me going here, there, and everywhere. But then they make me pick, not make me, but they tell me to pick things up. So I pick things up, and then next minute I'm there making a fairy house, and it's almost like my little girl and her imagination just runs wild, and I just love it. I do.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand that. Where I've been into the woods before near here and been drawn to make fairy dolls.
Have
No,
you?
yeah, no glue or anything, just like finding like a pig like a piece of bark,
Yeah.
and then I just use like mud and bits of plants, stones, and kind of create natural sort of glue from mud
Yeah.
and stick
I
it all
never thought
together that
about that.
way.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's a bit like making mud pies,
Yeah.
and then yeah, create these little doorways and put them up against trees. Um, and I've literally spent hours doing that before.
You get lost, don't you? You just get lost
Yeah,
in there. You really do.
yeah,
And you
and
do find, I find that the more time I go to this place and I'm there, the more I see. It's like the
mm,
more it's almost like they're getting used to me coming and connecting with them and, getting more
yeah.
mischievous as well.
Oh, I'm interested. Yeah, it's building that reciprocal relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we connect with a place. I remember during lockdown, there was a little woods near my home that I went to a lot and even created like a little room there, just like with stumps and created a chair, like a fairy chair. It was all naturally put together. And me and my children would go there and it helped us through lockdown actually.
Oh, have you got any pictures? I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll send you some. Yeah, I'll put
Please.
some up in this episode as well for people to see. Um, but it's really therapeutic. And then that place, we can't go back there anymore because actually it was in a private wood. And the landowner must have found these bits and bobs, even though it's all natural. I wasn't sawing
Mhm.
things up or anything. And they put a rope across so we couldn't go in there anymore. Yeah.
Oh,
But I was really thankful whenever I walk past where it is, I send my thanks to that place.
oh.
Yeah. So like with you, sounds like you're it's part of your process as well, and now you're building this
They never take me to the
relationship.
same place twice.
Hmm.
Never to the same place. I always give an offering as well. The other day I gave some plum syrup. I think I actually said in my video that it was honey, but it wasn't. It was plum syrup. And I'd made a little slide that I'd made for a fairy house, but I hadn't used it, and I got
Oh,
told to take it with me. So, and I'm like, I'd love to be able to see some, little child going up to that and seeing their
oh
face light
yeah,
up by it. But I will never
yeah.
find it again.
So with the mischief, is there anything in particular that's happened that you've noticed with the
So I think it
mischievousness?
was the second time. I don't know whether they were just really testing me this time, but it was the second time that I'd gone to connect. And they
Yeah.
had me walking around, and I
Hmm.
kept going through getting my hair stuck in things and stuff like that. And I was they said like I wanted to go one way and I was getting go the other way. So I was like, I don't like that way. I want to go that way. So I went the way that I wanted to go. And I ended up coming out near a lake. I actually took a video of it as well, so I'll send it to you. I was like, how am I supposed you've sent me how am I supposed to get across here now? You know? And it only looks small. The lake only looks well, it's not, it's like a little dike. It only looks small in there, but because the grass is grown over, it's like you've got that much each way, like half a
Mm.
meter each way. So there was no way of me getting over. So I had to go back the way and go back the way that they wanted me to go. And then I found this massive fairy house and I was like, oh, okay, now I know that to trust because you know when you're going in there and
Yeah.
you're unaware of what's going on or why you're getting shown these things and you kind of not get a little bit worried, but your brain takes over and your intuition just gets closed off. So you go the way that you feel comfortable with. When in matter of fact, you're being taken a place where there's going to be something that you know you can see. And I did, and I left. I didn't have nothing with me, so apart from a little shell in my pocket, a little crystal, a little mint, and I picked some flowers and leaves. And I had my tea with me, my herbal tea, so I put some of that in the shelf for them.
Oh, that's lovely. I think, yeah, I think it doesn't really matter what you leave, even if it's like singing them a song or something. It's just that showing that you recognize them and recognize and respect their place and
Yeah. I get told abruptly as well when they don't want me there no longer. It's like, right, you got
mm,
to go now. I'm like, okay, show me how to get out of here then. You got me here. I have actually seen a portal. I think I sent you
ah,
the video of that, didn't I? The little
yeah.
portal. And I sat there for ages, like, what is that? Like,
Mm,
I like kept moving around as well, thinking it was the light and stuff like that, and it just wasn't moving. And I was wondering if I can get it on video, and I did manage to get it on video. But yeah,
mm.
that was really really interesting. That was the first time I connected, and I very much felt my nan and Peyton there at that point. I was very emotional that day.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
almost like I could see things in the corner of my eye, but as soon as I looked, it wasn't,
Mm.
you know, wasn't there, and there was no wind that day. But I could see little leaves like lifting up and stuff, and I was like.
Oh,
No, I just wanted to
yeah.
see it, but I wasn't able to see it that day. I don't know
Mm,
whether my emotions were are
mm.
quite quite apparent then that I wasn't able to kind of calm myself down enough to connect properly. But that's
Yeah.
where the portal was. That was.
Can you explain to people what the portal looked like? 'Cause I've seen the video, but you just explain how it looked to you and how it felt.
It looked like a ball of fuzz, but not like a fluffy. It was like
Mm.
millions of little stars compact together, but
Wow.
it looked
Yeah.
like a fluff. Like
Mm.
my eyes aren't the greatest anyway, but that's why I videoed it. I was like, you know, someone else is going to see this. But to me at that time, it just looked like a ball of fluff.
Yeah.
That was the time when I got guided to sit on a stump
Mm.
and sit still. And I was like, there's so many stumps here. I don't know which one you want me to go to. Um, but there was a little acorn on just one of them. And I was like, okay, because I work with acorns for my trees. So I was
Oh,
like, okay,
wow.
I'll sit on this one. And that's when I found the portal, and that's when I got emotional and felt my nan. When a lot of stuff from my childhood with my nan come up as well. When she used to
Mm.
talk about the fairies and stuff with me.
Oh,
When I was on the back of a chair doing her hair, she used to talk to me
oh,
about it all.
wow. I'd love to hear that. Before we move on to that, I just want to say something about what I noticed in your video as well. Is I think I said this. There were two crossed branches.
Yeah, that was
And
where the portal was. Where the
yeah, and
mm,
I associate that with portals, with fairy doorways.
I can
And then,
remember because I didn't know that, and I was like, oh, okay.
yeah, There's a photographer called Laura Walters that I interviewed a couple of years ago, and she takes fairy photos. And
Really?
yeah, that's something I learned from her about wherever there's crossed branches, that's a portal. Um, yeah, I'll send you her details.
You learn something every day, don't you? Like
Yeah.
there's so much to learn about it.
Mm.
You know, I don't think you can ever know everything about it.
No, no, I know. But I'd love to hear. I'm sure other people here would love to hear your stories from your gran stories
Uh,
about fairies. Did she see fairies? Did she experience them?
I don't know whether she did or not.
Mm,
Um, but what I can remember is which I cut off. I think when you get to a certain age and then you've got conditionings and life
mm,
takes over and you go to school and your imagination just goes. And I think people forget that our imagination is actually something that's real within us.
yeah.
Um, so we cut it off. So
Mm.
when you start, there's a really noisy bird.
I can hear it's joining in. Isn't that strange? Just as we start talking about your gran.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So what was I saying? You've made me lose.
It's like the bird in look, the little bird that this lady's got behind me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we lose our imagination, and we kind of when we tap back into that as an adult, you go back to your childhood.
Mm.
So now I'm tapping into it, and I connected with my nan when I went to visit the vet. um, it's like really noisy today. Um, a lot of memories come up. A
Mm.
lot of things that I had like suppressed down come up. So I used to sit on the back of her chair all the time and put curlers in. And we used to talk
Oh,
about all the fairies and the pixies. And, you know, whenever we'd go to the woods, she would always like use her imagination through us. She never
yeah.
grew up really, my nan. Um, yeah, and we used to talk about it, and when we used to she used to make corned beef sandwiches, and she used to tell me that don't give them to the fairies. You're not allowed to give meat to the fairies.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know whether that's true, but that's what she used to tell me. She
Ah.
used to give us oranges as well, um, big oranges, and
Mhm.
but my dad's going to find out about this now. But she used to put a sugar cube in the middle of it to sweeten it up for us, so that we could eat them. And then she used to say to me to leave the rind out for the fairies because they like it because the sugar goes into the rind. It melts into the rind
Ah.
and they like it.
So
So
what did she put into the oranges?
a
I did,
sugar cube.
oh, a sugar cube.
Yeah, like the big
Ah.
oranges. She used to put a sugar cube in it. My dad's gonna know now. Sorry, Nan.
Grans are great, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they
I had
are.
I had a
I'm going to be a grand this year for the first time.
are you?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. In
Wow.
July. Little Delilah. I can't
Congratulations.
wait to introduce her to all the fairies
Oh, how
and to learn through
lovely.
her as well, because she will be more connected to being, you know, younger, and she'll be able to teach me a thing or two.
Yeah. Oh, children, so inspiring, aren't
Mm,
they?
mm,
Yeah, isn't it wonderful? Because I had a wonderful grandmother that was very imaginative and she just lived two doors up from me. And we do so many fun things. She was very creative, like make houses from, like rings from the grass cuttings and pretend they were houses. And oh, she used to sew and knit, and she'd always have interesting like bits of fabric she'd give us to play with or things to draw with, and so many stories. So it's wonderful if we've got somebody like that in our lives, haven't we? Because then we pass that on to our children.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I become a teenager, I become distant from my nan, so I didn't
Mm,
really um get to spend much time with her. through my adult life. I mean, she was still present in my life, but not as much as a child. And I feel her now, and she comes to me now whenever I connect to the Fae. So I'm not going to sit there and go, I should have done more, because she's with me now. But if there's one thing that I wish I could do is to hear more stories that she has to tell. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. It sounds like she had an otherworldly connection from what
Mm.
you're saying, for her to be
Yeah, she
talking about.
definitely did. And I don't know whether she had that connection with my brothers and sisters. I have no idea. But I remember it, and I remember the stories and the little things that she used to tell me. I recently found out as well. I went to a retreat, and stinging nettles. I don't know if you know about the stinging nettles and the little shoes.
Oh, the dead nettles with the little flowers on the nettles. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I didn't know that until a few weeks ago.
yeah. What did you learn? I don't know about the shoe side of things, but yeah, I
So
just
no, do you know? Not dead nettles. Do you know when nettles grow and then some of them have little flowers on them?
the yellow flowers. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Mm.
also get white ones as well. Well, they're little pixie shoes. You pick them
Oh,
out, they're like, and you dry them out. They dry out like little pixie shoes.
oh, I have to go and
Mm.
get some of those.
Yeah.
Words. So I know you can drink them as tea. You can put them in hot water
Oh,
when
can
you're in the
you?
woods. Yeah. Mm. They make a
Ah.
kind of a sweet tea.
Oh, I'll have to try that.
Yeah. I'm
Hmm.
sure somebody said that I might be misremembering this, but somebody said to me that they're good for like menopause
I need
symptoms.
that.
Yeah, me too.
There's no escaping that, is there?
And you sent me some photos of the Beltane fire.
Yes.
I'd like to talk about that, and a wonderful photo of you jumping over, I think you're jumping over the fire,
Yeah.
and in your around your hair, where your hairs are lifting up, there's a couple of little figures, small figures, aren't there, that look very
Yeah,
fairy-like.
there was one, and then you said if you look, there's one on the bottom. Yeah, so my mate
Mm.
was just taking pictures of me jumping over the fire. Um, and one of the things I was asking for is to connect stronger with the Fae, to show me that I can trust myself with it.
Mm.
Because I think that's where we doubt. People doubt what they see is real, and that's where we're cutting off the imagination. I mean, stop doing that,
Mm.
people. Stop
I
doing it.
know, I know, because
Missing out on so much.
exactly, it's like this. I mean, I was such a daydreamer when I was growing up, and yeah, the imagination has been so derided with people just saying, "Oh, it's just your imagination." But as you say, the imagination is the key to so much. It's like the
We're
key.
told when we're daydreaming, we're told not to daydream.
Yeah,
Like, that's where your imagination is. Let a child daydream.
it is. Yeah, I'd often, if I was sat at school and really bored with what the teacher was saying, I'd just end up like drifting off, like looking out the window, and you'd have
Seeing
I'd
things
be
in the
told
clouds.
off. Yeah, oh, what's that out there? And my imagination would be off. But it's good because those are the skills you need to be able to write stories, to be able to do so much in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you share a little bit more about your houses and how you're going to take it forward? Is it something that you're going to offer to people, or
Yeah, so
yeah?
I've got an Instagram and Facebook um page. I've had it since October last year, but trying to do that is like a minefield. Like, I don't know how to do it all. So I'm learning it as I'm going, and I put things up, and
Mm,
I'm quite raw with my story as well. if I'm having a bad day or anything like that, it all goes on there. It's not just about my fairy houses. It's about the process of not being able, having that kind of mental block where I can't
Mm.
physically do my fairy houses because myself is sitting there going, I can't make them, you
Mm.
know. But then I look at them and I'm like, yes, you can. And I'm like, so I
Yeah.
have an internal argument with myself, and I just have to step away from it and go, I'm not doing it like this. I want to
Mm.
be, I want to do it when I'm more balanced with myself. And I've got a lot of things happening around me at the moment that is taking me away from it. But I do. I put
Yeah.
all my journey on there. I put on how I make them, and a lot of people have said to me that I need to start putting things next to it because they don't see how small it is.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
it looks bigger, but they're actually really, really like small. I'll show you this one, the campsite that I've done.
Oh yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, I was going to say I've seen one or two of your videos where you're showing your process of making things. Oh, that's fabulous. Look at that.
And it's
Oh
got
wow, a little
a little
stream.
a little toilet, and in the toilet it's got proper little toilet roll in.
That's fabulous. Fabulous.
It's
Is
got a
that
little in there, but you can't really see it because it's dark. But it's got like little seats
uh,
from in there.
oh, it's lovely. Is that a memorial for someone or just something
No,
that you
this is
yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I just get called to make some. Um, but I also feel that if I'm making them and someone feels
Mm,
like they connecting with that fairy house, then and it resonates with them, then maybe it was meant for them.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think it's a heart connection because what you're doing is coming from your heart. And
Yeah,
I like that honesty about you. It's a real gift to be able to share so honestly. And I've seen one of your videos recently where you're, like you say, you're struggling a bit with how you're showing that struggle of,
yeah.
oh, it's
We
not
have to
happening
show our
today.
struggles. Not every
Yeah,
day is going to be, a sunny day. We all want it
no,
to be a sunny day, but it's not always going to be a sunny day. And I think we're taught to put this mask on and smile and go happy,
yeah,
jazz hands, and life's not like that. And I think
no,
people need to see people's all I can't say this word, authenticity.
yeah, authenticity. Yeah,
That's
I
it.
know. I know. It's such a journey, especially for women,
Mm,
I think, because if you've been, I know growing up as a little girl in the 1970s, 80s, it was like, oh, why are you not smiling? Little girls are
yeah,
supposed to smile. And I was quite a quiet, serious person growing up, and that's just the way I was.
I
I
was
was
called
quite,
OTT,
I really,
but I am OTT.
yeah. But it's like all these labels need to turn
Mm,
them around into, well, what's the positive side of that? That's like
yeah.
OTT, that's being a leader, isn't it? That's being,
I think it's just using my
yeah,
imagination. I just use my imagination
yeah,
and I used to act on my imagination. So to
yeah,
people, it's OTT. But now I'm like, if someone says, oh, you're weird, I'm like, thank you.
yeah,
I
I
smile
am.
at that. I
Yeah,
smile at that rather than someone telling me that I'm beautiful. I'm like, beautiful. I'm like, if you call me
yeah,
weird, I'm like, yep. I would rather be weird.
me
It's
too.
stripping back
Yeah,
all the conditionings that and the labels, as you say, that has been placed upon us, so that we can just sit there and breathe and
yeah,
know that it's okay to have down days, and to
mm,
actually lean on people as well. I think when we're in like that kind of downward spiral, we
mm,
forget that we can lean on people because we go in and we feel like a burden, and no one's a burden. No one is.
yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. I really want to make that message clear that for anyone that's
Mm.
struggling to reach out, to a friend or understanding family member or one of there's so many helplines now, aren't there, for people? I'll put actually, because I discovered recently there is a global organization, it's a website
Mm.
where, like, wherever you are in the world, you can find the helpline for your country, the
Oh, okay,
helplines.
that's good.
Yeah, I found it recently because I thought, oh, with my podcast, I wanted to put something up that people could
Mm.
log on to if they want, want help. Because in the UK, it's Samaritans, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's
And
others
my
that.
inbox is always open. I always say that on my posts when I talk about,
Mm,
mental health or my down days. My inbox is always open.
oh, that's really kind of you. Yeah. Mm,
I'd hate to feel like someone's struggling out there and they've got no one to talk to, or feel
yeah.
like they can talk to someone.
Yeah, me too. If I see friends on Facebook that are having some people post and share they're having a bad, I have to, I have to respond in some way and tell them, you're not alone. Do you need a chat?
Yeah,
And 9 times out of 10, that's all people need to hear.
exactly. It's just knowing that they're not alone.
Mm,
That sometimes is just enough for people to know that there is light, there is light there.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, because like you, I've had people around me that struggle with their mental health. So it's just very real part of life, isn't it?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's like with fairies, they're not all light. They're not all, you know, they have this darkness about them as well, the
Mm-hmm.
light and dark. But I had this message about fairies a few years ago, and they're not dualistic really. We tend to put this, oh, there's good or bad fairies, but
Mm.
they don't see it like that. They just are.
They're
It's
just
just
who they
all,
are, but that's just like us,
yeah,
really. We are who we
yeah.
are.
Mm.
We just get judged a lot. I think people judge people too much.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. I
Mm.
mean, I've got to the age now where I don't really care what, what people think.
High five to that. Yeah, totally.
That's why I'm doing this podcast.
But we should be like this at a younger age. Like
Yeah.
my daughter, she's 16 and
Mm,
she has got respect for people, but she doesn't care if people don't like her. She doesn't change herself. She's the happy-go-lucky person that is, and when she's having a down day, she's having a down day. And she's not afraid to sit there and express that she's having a down day. And
that's good.
I think we're taught as kids to suppress all our emotions, to get on and go to this job and get your GCSEs and this, that, and the other. And we're not taught about all these emotions that we've got going around us, and we're not listened to as children to understand what these are so that we can process them.
Yeah,
So we're,
definitely.
we're going through our adulthood like between 20 and 40s, going, what the hell's going on? And then
Mm,
we get to 40 and we're like, oh, okay, this is
yeah.
what's going on. And if kids were like that and taught that, think of how this world would be a better place, how
Oh,
people would be living from the heart instead of the mind.
it'd be amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
I've got two 16-year-olds. I've got 16-year-old twins, boy and girl.
But
Um,
that was interesting for you.
yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I've always said, instilled in them to talk to me, if they've got any issues or whatever. But to be honest, I don't know what it is with young people these days. They're much more streetwise and
Yeah.
wiser than me.
I
You
think they're
know?
waking up earlier. I think kids
Yeah,
are tapping into what we're tapping into later, which is great. But the schools have got to pick up on it. The schools have got to pick up
yeah,
and start teaching them about, you know, emotions, about how
yeah,
to regulate their own emotions and you know, and about calming the mind so that
Mm.
they're not like erratic. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially through their teenage years, it's like, you know, hormones are rushing around, and the teachers are still treating them the same, but they're not teaching them about these hormones that are going on, and
Mm.
you know that
Yeah.
it's okay to be feeling this. They just felt like they're just a burden to people, you know.
Yeah. As far as I can see, that it's very much focusing on the academic stuff, and it's like this conveyor belt in a way,
Yeah.
even though things have changed hugely, vastly
Mm.
much better than when I was at school, when it was just like you just chucked you in the pit.
I couldn't imagine going to school now with a mobile phone. I just couldn't.
No.
I couldn't.
Mm. Yeah, it's completely lots of changes for the better, but still lots of things that need to change to do with,
Mm.
just like you say, human emotions, learning about some of the real the real stuff in
Mm.
life, not just how to get an A in your English exam.
I
Yeah.
know Sasha's going through, which she's my daughter, she's going through
Mm.
her GCSEs at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying to her, just don't stress about it.
Mm.
You know, what will be, Sash. You know, if you want to try, you try. If you don't, you don't. But these exams are not going to determine where you are in your life. They
No,
just aren't.
no, they
You
don't.
know, I didn't have any GCSEs, um, and I've survived, and I'm a lot happier now than I was thinking that I had to be this, go and get this certificate for this thing and get this certificate for that thing, because otherwise I'm not going to be accepted into the world, you know,
Yeah.
into kind of being accepted. I think I just said that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
no, I
I'm like,
understand.
no,
Mm.
this is coming from me, and I know I'm good enough to be able to do this. No one can give me a certificate to tell me that I'm good at doing fairy houses.
No.
There's no fairy school. They should make a fairy school. I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be fabulous, wouldn't it?
I'll sign up.
I can see what you're doing would be really, I'm sure young people would love that, making fairy houses with you.
Someone did actually ask me if I would go into a school and make them. I'm like, ah.
It'd be
I'm still
great.
a little bit scared with it. You know, I'm still learning to trust that I'm an artist.
Mm.
That sounds really strange because my art teacher would have loved me now. Back then, I didn't even get into art because I just couldn't do it. But now, like,
Yeah, but what you're doing is such a skill, isn't it? It's like finding the materials and creating the design and putting it all together. I mean, I'm
yeah.
sure
I mean, the
like,
best way kids go out into schools and do
yeah,
that. You get a ground, you know, you go out and ground yourself with the earth and connect with the earth and be
yeah,
outside, and then you make something. That surely that's better than sitting there and doing an exam, right?
I think so. I just don't think we're made. I mean, I know if I had to go back to school now, I just wouldn't cope with it, having to sit for hours on end in a classroom. I know they don't do that so much now, but I'm such a fidget. I'd rather be outside learning, or rather, yeah, be moving around and learning. It's like there's so many different ways to do it, isn't there, apart from just sitting in front of a screen or,
It is a screen now, isn't it?
yeah,
It's more of a computer based rather than, you know, human interaction. They're learning from computers and stuff like that.
yeah, send it to you.
Oh, I forgot to say about I'm going doing a festival in August, my first
Oh,
festival.
oh, brilliant. Yeah,
I'm
hear
doing
about
a
that. Mm.
fairy house workshop.
Are you? Where's that going to be? I can put the
Um,
links in the notes for this show.
it's
Mm.
yeah, I'll send you it so you can put it in there. It's
Yeah,
down at Clock Hill. I can't remember where it is. That's really bad, but I'll send you the link.
yeah.
It was actually the first festival that I went to on my own last year.
Oh,
Now I'm going this year to work. Yeah, so I've got two workshops, one on the Saturday and one on the Sunday, and people are going to be making channeling their grief into a fairy house.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
So we're
Wow.
going to go into a meditation and connect, build the energy in our hands to then channel
Wow.
it through to a fairy house that they can take with them.
Oh gosh, that sounds, yeah, please send me the link for that.
I will
How,
do.
so is it in your part of the world then, or is it
About an hour and 10 minutes away from me. I think it's in Bedfordshire, but don't quote me
Bedfordshire?
on that because I'm really bad with places. My geography isn't the greatest.
Don't worry. Oh, I'd love to be able to get to that. Yeah, but send the info and I'll put it in the description.
I will do.
Ah, thank you so much for talking to me,
No, thank
Alyscha.
you.
There you
Thank,
go.
thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and I'll put all your info in the description and sending you lots of love for your journey forward.
Thank you.
And yeah, take care. And I'll let you know when this episode will be out as well.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Yeah, lots of love. Bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye.
Bye.